Hello and welcome to episode 51 of Pacific Horseplayers right here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I am your host, Noah Meagher, and we got the gang back. We got Ryan, we got Jackson, and this is not going to be your typical handicapping show that we do on Tuesday nights here in PHP. Our Breeders' Cup content has begun. We kicked it off last weekend when Jackson and I talked about some of the West Coast contingent that we'd be running in their backyard in about 10 days now. So talked about that. And then last night, these two boys joined the boss man, Howard. They were talking about whether they were smashing or fading favorites. So go ahead and check that out if you haven't. So we've got those two underway. Going to be bringing you a little bit of something different where we're going to be talking about the Del Mar track profile. I would say us three on the screen are some of the most well-known guys, at least in terms of knowing how the West Coast operates and things that you got to key on when you're playing those races over at the Seaside Oval. So Jackson's already talking up. We got this show underway, and there's a comment from Matt that I actually want to bring up because it's a great way to start it. Matt says, do. With no old man that controls tonight, Gen Z can whip out all the modern day shiz that fizzles their nizzle tonight. 6-7. Before we get into the content and look at some other comments, of course, you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. If we want to subscribe to our regular Power Picks tip sheet, you can do that at our website, $2.10 ROI all time. I think the total picks are at least over $950 now, so we're reaching that $1,000 mark. Obviously, we've been doing it since 2021, but if you're a little more looking for stuff that's coming up in terms of recent Power Picks, of course, we're going to be offering our 2025 Breeders' Cup Power Picks tip sheet. That is on sale now, over 20 pages of info. Current standard Power Picks subscribers, you can get that at our website for $35. If you are not a current subscriber, you can go ahead and get that for $45, I believe. I'm actually going to bring that up on the screen so you guys can see what I'm looking at. And let me do that real shortly. And there it is. You can see it there. That's our website right there. This is the main page. Obviously, Pete does a great job doing that. Scroll down, you see the drop-down menu here, Power Picks tip sheets. Obviously, you've got standard and history if you want to take a look at what you'll be getting if you end up purchasing them. But if you click on Breeders' Cup PPs, got a ton of info about what's included, how you can sign up for those. Deadline to sign up for those, you can see right here on the screen as I highlight it. It is noon Eastern on Wednesday, October 29th. So you've got a little bit over a week to do so. And then over here, obviously, you can find out how to pay and all that good stuff. So go ahead and check that out. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is this other thing I've got up here. If you are not listening to us or watching us on YouTube, you should go ahead and do that because you can use the live chat feature. And what you can also do is if you go to our, not that one, this one right here, go to our YouTube page, you can see that we are live right now, shocker. But if you scroll down, we've got all of our 2025 Breeders' Cup content on there right now. You can see the two shows. I previously mentioned that we did two shows coming up tomorrow night. Pre-entries are announced. So Howard, Pete, Paul, and some others from the crew will be talking about that. And then, of course, you've got Howard and his annual show with Davey. They're going to be talking about the international contingent that's going to be coming over. So I think that's everything that we've got to plug. Before we get into the content, we got to check in with our boys. How we doing?
Man, what an intro! That was really quick and concise and to the point.
It was a little long-winded.
I had a brand new drinking game to test out today, but it lasted about 7 seconds because I don't.
Yeah, Jackson's already blacked out.
It'd be a rough show, so we're canceling that. We'll try that out another day. I'm excited for the day though. It should be good.
Yeah,
I did a lot of research last week, thinking we were going to talk about it last week, and I didn't realize it was actually today. So I've been ready for this show for weeks. We're good.
Yeah. And we've all been ready for October 31st and November 1st. I know we've got a lot more content that's going to be coming out, but at the same time, it almost feels like we're ready for that that races to transpire. So
yeah, and keeping an eye on the full moon, the no moon, the crescent moon, the tides, and the tides coming in and the tides coming out, because that plays a big factor in the way this track plays, according to some. I'm not sure I'm a believer, but there are some people out there that do.
Speaking of people out there, we've got a lot of people in the chat. Katie, of course, number one on that list. How about going crazy for Breeders' Cup? Ryan, I'll actually let you plug that in a minute because I know you guys are going to be having some good content on there. Jim likes journalism, wants to see him there. Kevin McHugh is asking Matt if he's going to California. I know you two will be there. I unfortunately will not. I'll be in Florida with this gentleman right here. He says, hello, everyone. Interesting show tonight. You handicap all you want. If you don't understand track trends and where horses usually win from, you're just plain old not paying attention. Ruben, Ryan is the man. I'm not so sure about that, but whatever you say, Ruben. Hello, everyone. Looking for some good insight, and we've got more people that are joining the chat. So if you've got some questions about just West Coast racing in general, things that you want us to comment on, or anything else that you want us to address, please go ahead and do that. And Jim's already got a question about the tide. We can talk about that when we get into our stuff. I know, Jackson, you've got some good stats and stuff that you're bringing to the table. Ryan, I'm sure you'll have some good info as well. But I think we should probably start the conversation on how we see Del Mar play on a day-to-day basis, whether it be turf sprints, turf routes, dirt sprints, dirt routes. I think that's probably a good place to start our discussion. And I think the easy place to start is turf sprints. So I'll open it to you guys. Ryan, you can go first. What is the key to winning in these turf sprints at Del Mar?
I mean, yeah, the tight turns. Obviously, we've talked about it. At length every time we do a show about Del Mar, but you have to save ground around those turns, especially when the rails come down, which of course they will be for Breeders' Cup weekend. We've seen incredible biases before, like, Fall Meet 2023, where the 1, 2, and 3 posts are winning at, a 40% clip, and they were in the money 73% of the time. But, you fast forward in 2024 and 2025 to this point, it's still just, the number one is you got to save ground. We saw it last year in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, in the Juvenile Turf Sprint. Saving ground made all the difference. That's where, the winners came from. And horses like Silver Bullet and Notorious lost a little bit of ground, but that ended up maybe being the difference, and ended up with, Starless getting the victory after skimming the rail. I forget who won the Juvenile Turf Sprint, but very similar, shot through at the rail. Again, it's all just about saving ground. Post position matters for sure, but we've seen horses like Governor Sam cross and clear like he did last year in the Juvenile Turf Sprint. And he was able to save a bit of ground, ultimately didn't get the job done, but he still ran really well. So, again, just get to the rail as quick as possible because that's going to be the biggest difference maker.
Yeah, I think inside post is probably the number one angle I look at when I'm handicapping these races. Jackson, is it the same kind of priority for you, or are there other things that you kind of factor in?
Yeah, you definitely want to look towards the inside because, as Ryan mentioned, especially if you want to look at last year's Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, Starlet saved every inch of ground the whole step of the way. I disagree with you a little bit. I think AG Bullet and Motorius both hugged the rail the entire turn. And if you want to take the 3 horses out, completed the trifecta, and they ran 1, 2, 3, and they saved ground the entire way around the turn. And maybe they swung out in the stretch, but those were definitely the horses that got the best trips in there, and they ran, they rounded out the try. So it's definitely a priority. Post doesn't matter nearly as much if you can somehow work out a way to get over towards the rail, but you don't want to be 3 wide going into that far turn and going the flat 5.
Essentially, you don't want to be a horse with tactical speed. You either need to be a speed horse or be a horse that's basically a dead closer, because if you have that tactical speed, you get in that middle group of those 8 horses where someone's going to be 4 wide. And if you're drawn, outside of post position 6 with that kind of running style, you're either going to get shuffled in a place that you don't want to be, or you're going to be wide, and neither of those end up in a winning trip, in my opinion.
Well, Ryan, would you say that a style with a horse like Motorius would be ideal, just because it just kind of seems like the way that he does his best running is, he just drops out the back, things fall apart in front of him, and he comes with his big wide rally. Would you say that he would benefit? Because from what I remember last year, he really wasn't that far off of it, if I remember correctly. I think it was AG Bull that was kind of right off the speed, and then he was right in behind her. But I think if he draws inside, I think that's probably going to benefit him a little bit better. But at the same time, just the style that he has, I think the versatility of whether he draws inside or outside, it really might not matter. But at the same time, it's 5 furlongs, so you got to make a move at some point.
No doubt. I think Motorius is almost kind of that outlier where he loves Del Mar and he loves that 5 furlongs where he's kind of made his same race no matter what. And, we saw him win the Green Flash via DQ where he was drawn in post position 10 and he dropped out the back. We've seen him, have that same run, the same run style drawn towards the rail. So, for him, it really doesn't matter. I think the 5 furlongs at Del Mar is maybe the biggest key for Motorius. And we'll obviously get into who we like in those races a little later on in the many, many videos that we're all going to have here. But I think his run isn't going to be jeopardized by post. He's one of the rare ones. Same with like a pure speedball. Like last year there was Cogburn. We talked a lot about the pace scenario. I think we spoke about that race where horses were maybe going to go with him. Ultimately, it didn't end up mattering. Cogburn was faster than them all, cleared, got to the rail, and that was that. So, obviously didn't win, but yeah.
And Jackson, from the probables that I've seen so far that will run in a race like the turf sprint, I know the juvenile turf sprint on Friday is a little more up in the air just because of Euros coming over and whatnot. Just looking at the probables that Aragona's got on the daily racing form, it doesn't look like there's a ton of speed in the race. I think the fastest horse that I can see in there is probably She's So Spicy, who I saw win at Kentucky Downs. She was pretty good. She's probably going to have to step up her game. But, I mean, outside of her, where else does the true speed really come from?
It'll be, and I haven't heard about this, but it'll be interesting to hear if Bring the Band Home was entered in the pre-entries when they come out tomorrow, because he is the speed, right? We saw what he did all summer. He was very, very fast. He was just terrible last, I think it was 2 weeks ago now.
At Woodbine.
At Woodbine. I think he ran dead naked last. So if he comes back from that, I would take that as a good sign that, it's just one of those days. And he's going to find himself in a race, as you mentioned, that doesn't have a lot of speed. And off of that effort, he might actually be 6 or 7 to 1, where, he was going to be the favorite. Had he run better at all at Woodbine? He was the favorite going into that race just 2 weeks ago. So if you want to be forgiving of that one effort, now he's going to find himself under much more favorable circumstances.
Let's look at some 2-turn races at Del Mar, at least last year in terms of the Breeders' Cup. Typically, it's a place that you obviously like to save ground and get that pocket trip. We've seen Hector Barrios do it time and time again, and he's just a magician when it comes to rides like that. Lake Victoria on Friday was one that got a similar trip where she was down on the inside, tipped out. Obviously, she was much the best that day. But another one on Friday, Henri Matisse, who was from the 13-hole, wasn't really one that benefited from saving a ton of ground. I know he was off the rail for a good majority of that race, and he came with a late rally on the outside. More Than Looks, one that comes to mind. He was kind of parked out the back, made a big wide move, and he was rolling last year. Those are the kind of 1-turn races that come to mind. But Jackson, I'll go back there. Sorry, 2-turn races. Jackson, I'll go back to you. Is saving ground kind of the key angle in terms of these races, or in terms of a scenario where you just got the best horse in the race, would you like a rider to tip him out and just win that race based off of talent?
No, at Del Mar, you want to save ground. It's very different from other tracks, especially from tracks like in Kentucky, where I think you have like a Churchill Downs or Keeneland. You're okay being 2 wide. You're okay maybe even being 3 wide. At Del Mar, you don't want to be 3 wide because it's not a grindy home stretch, right? It's short. I think it's only a furlong and a half. It's a quick burst to the finish line. You need to have a certain type of horse from off the pace. They have to be athletic. They have to be able to hit the hole when it opens up, because it's only going to be there for a second when they bunch up top of stretch, and you got to really be able to accelerate. So it's very different. That's something you need to keep an eye on as you're watching these horses come from not only the East Coast but also from overseas.
I'd say to piggyback on that, Jackson, because that's a good point. I'd say there's 2 kind of styles of runner that you want to look for with those turf races. Typically the 2 turns or 3 turns as they go longer. But you mentioned it, either the horse that gets brave and wants to split the gap and almost pulls the rider there without the rider having to ask, because you mentioned that hole closes quick. Or if it's one of those horses that they're one of those long strided horses that they can't get their momentum stopped, then wheeling out is okay. You just got to make sure that you start that move a little bit early. And when you're turning for home, you're already in the clear because, again, it's not a very long stretch. So you maybe have to start that move a little earlier. But we saw a horse like Yabir do it, and he managed to, mow them all down late. But a horse like that, if his momentum got stopped at all, he wasn't winning that race. So, it's kind of those are the two kind of styles that you need.
If you want to see how to win races on the grass at Del Mar, just go back and watch any Hector Barrios ride from the last 3 years. He rides his course so much better than everyone else. It does not matter if he breaks from the 12 post. He will find a way to the rail. And he moves horses up so much. So that would be my advice.
And that was going to be my next question. I was gonna ask you guys just horses that are coming over from the East Coast and they get riders that don't have mounts, just like riders that are in the California colony. Do you give them a second look or give them a little bit of an upgrade? I know Hector would be one that I would easily, but could you see yourself in a scenario where you're on the fence with a horse and he gets a jockey that's familiar with a course like Del Mar and maybe include him on some tickets?
Any East Coast horse or foreign horse that gets Hector, and I'm not sure if he's going to get any kind of mounts in this Breeders' Cup, but if he was to, instant upgrade. Instant. He's just better. Like, he knows this course so well. I don't know how he does it, but he does every single day.
And Freysu is a close second for me. I think someone just mentioned that in the chat as well. Maybe not close second, but is a clear second, I guess would be an easier way to put it. I would say those two prioritize saving ground over everything else. And I think that's ultimately why they have the success that they do.
And I used to as a close third. You guys would agree?
No.
No.
All right. I think that takes care of some of the turf races and post position and stuff like that. Let's move over to the dirt because, Jackson, I know you've got some stats. You've done your homework, and feel free to share some on the turf too if you've got it. I don't know if you do. Not sure how much.
Nothing quite as substantial.
But let's start with one-turn races on the dirt. I think primarily they play pretty fairly. I know in the 6 and 6.5 races, I especially try to avoid the rail as much as possible. I just think you're up against it from the beginning. Such a tough place to win from. The 7 furlongs, I'm a little more lenient, just because you've got a little more time to get yourself situated and get into a spot where you're not taking a ton of dirt and horses aren't flying out of the gate to come over on you. So I give a little bit of a leeway to 7, but 6 and 6.5, definitely the 3/4. If the horse is, they got to be not a standout, but they got to be pretty good for me to maybe include them on some tickets. So that's really the only angle for me when it comes to one turns. Is something that you guys really find in these one turn dirt races at Del Mar?
I don't entirely disagree with you. I think a lot comes down to the running style of the horse that draws where. But generally, I agree with what you're saying. I do think 7 furlongs 100% lends itself to, every post is fine, more or less, unless, you're one of those horses that draws inside of the other speed and gets 1-2 from the rail. Then you're kind of in no man's land, kind of similar to Raging Torrent when he kind of drew the rail. That's that was tough. But Shane O'Neill's in the chat too. A straight no chaser winning from the rail last year. Look, huh?
Yeah, your horse was on the rail. I
was gonna say straight no chaser. Yeah, I don't know what Shane's on. No one actually knows. But sorry, got sidetracked a little bit. There, Shane O'Neill has corrected.
I think the case. I think what happened is Shane is still drunk from being in the winner's circle at Keeneland
after Joel Rosario blew up the tote.
Yeah, 21 to 1 shot or 27 to 1 shot, won by that.
To finish my thought real quick. 6 furlongs, I think speed and being forward is much more of a key. Going 7, you want that horse that's kind of coming from a couple lengths off the pace. That's at least how I look at it. I'm curious what Jackson's stats are going to say to either back that up or disprove it completely.
No, on the dirt and the one-turn races, I think it's actually pretty fair, especially in these Breeders' Cup races where you're going to have, fields of 10, fields of 12. They're going to be large fields. There's going to be multiple horses vying for the lead. So I don't think it matters where you're coming from as long as it sets up for you, whether it's speed or dead last. I do agree with Noah that you don't want to be inside. And to Shane's point, but Shane's horse last year, Raging Torrent, was stuck on the rail and basically had no chance after that. He just never got in the right position, and we know what he did after that. He became one of the best one-turn horses in the entire world. He won multiple Grade 1s here. He went overseas and won a Grade 1. I mean, that was a very, very legit one-turn horse who got stuck on the inside at Del Mar, and it didn't work out. And I think it is tough for horses that have speed because they have to outbreak everyone from the rail. If you're on a dead stone cold closer, it's not going to matter as much because you're going to be back there anyways. But if you're a horse that has speed, you don't want to be inside.
Would you reconsider your thoughts on a horse like Copian if she was able to draw inside? Because I think she's kind of got the weird style where she's not going to come from way out of it, but she's also not going to be super involved. Mm-hmm. So there's a chance to where if she draws inside, there could be horses coming over on her in either race. The 6 with a horse like Ventornado, who's pretty fast, and Straight No Chaser obviously has a ton of speed. We saw it in this prep race, and we saw it right in same exact race last year. And then even in the filly and mare sprint, you've got horses that are pretty quick, like Hope Road's one that comes to mind. She, I think, is going to be firing out of the blocks. As a fellow card carrier from the Copian camp, is that something that would make you a little nervous in terms of making a sizable wager on her on Saturday?
Well, I agree with what you guys said. I think going 6, yes, it would be a big concern because it's a much shorter run to the far turn. So if she does draw inside, I think that'd be a big problem, and I would probably be very skeptical of putting too much money on her in that spot because I don't know what kind of trip she's going to be able to work out from there. But if we're going 7, there's a much longer run of the turn. There was more time for them to work themselves out. I think she'll be able to overcome that a little bit better than she would be going the 6 furlongs.
Ryan, is there a horse or horses that come to mind that would be fine in any scenario? Rather,
that would be fine in any scenario. Talking just one turn on dirt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I feel like I don't know. I'm pretty sure if Copian was in the filly and mare sprint, any post position, I'd be fine with. She's a very talented horse. In terms of the dirt sprint, I don't know. I mean, Lovesick Blues is going to win from wherever he draws, but that's a topic for a different day.
We walked right into that one.
Yeah, you did.
He could be way out in Solana Beach and win that game.
That's right.
I'm just trying to look at the probables for that race in terms of real speed and maybe horses that, being drawn inside or outside wouldn't matter too much. Ventornado's very, very quick, Straight No Chaser. Those are kind of the 2 real speedy types that I've seen. Patriot Spirit's going to come from off of it if he goes, right?
Going 6, yes.
Because I knew he won the Bosberg, but I don't remember if I ended up watching that race. I still got some homework to do, clearly. But
I will say Nakatomi can probably draw wherever. His run styles kind of just make the one run, and he's that 6 furlong specialist where I think 6 is actually that the distance that he's maybe best at. So maybe he's another one. He is 15-1, but I think he probably has a huge shot of hitting the board. As an early kind of projection behind Lovesick Blues and some others, of course.
Yeah, if Lovesick Blues about 4 to 5 hit the board. 2-turn races. We've got 5 2-turn races on the dirt out of the 14. You've got juvenile fillies, you've got juvenile, you've got dirt mile, you've got distaff, and you've got the classic, of course, at 1.25 miles. In terms of 2-turn races, whether it varies from 1 mile to 1.25 miles, is there anything? We'll start with you, Jackson, because you're Mr. Statman. Is there anything that people should be aware of?
Yeah, so I remember very vividly. It was Breeders' Cup, the day after the Breeders' Cup in 2021, and I believe it was Brad Free who was typing his picks out, and he wrote in there like the last 3 or 4 years in the fall meet at Del Mar, like 80% of the horses that win these 2-turn races have the lead at the top of the stretch. And I just remember thinking to myself, that's first of all, that's a giant number, and second of all, this would have been useful to know 2 days ago when the Breeders' Cup was happening. So that really annoyed me. So I've always kept track of it since then. And, last week I went back and I watched every single 2-turn race in the fall meet for the past 4 years. And I also watched the races from 2017 in the Breeders' Cup. So last 4 years in the fall meet only, there have been 76 races and 52 of the horses that have won had the lead turning for home. So that's 68%. Pretty big number. You got to be up close by the time they hit the top of the stretch. 79% of the horses were within half a length of the lead or had the lead. And 92% of the winners in the 76 races were within one length of the lead turning for home. So this is not a track where you want to be making the final move. You want to be making the move on the turn. This isn't like Saratoga where we see the race fall apart late, or Churchill where we see horses come from the cloud. Like if you are not within striking distance coming around the bend, you are in a lot of trouble. And I think that definitely is going to play a factor, at least in my handicapping, because certain horses can make these type of moves and certain horses cannot. And you think of a horse like last year, Sierra Leone. And the other thing I found is it doesn't matter. You can still win from off the pace. It's just not like the speed is complete dominating. You can win from off the pace, but you have to make that move with, kind of going around the turn. Think of Sierra Leone where he was down the backside. He was like 12 lengths out of it. But even he had the lead turning for home. He made the move on the turn. He passed the whole field. And then they get to the top of the stretch, and no one passed anyone. And I think the biggest example of this race, you go back to the 2021 Distaff. We remember the massive speed duel that happened that day. And Marsha Lorraine, at 70-1 from Japan, somehow found herself in the lead turning for home. And she was gasping for air, begging for a place to lay down. And there was 3 horses on her inside and 3 horses on her outside. And they're all coming at her, and no one moved. Like, horses just do not get past. And I don't know what it is about these 2-turn races, but no one really makes significant moves in the home stretch. So I think when I'm studying these races, I'm looking for horses that can either get to the front or can blow this thing open on the far turn and have that quick turn of foot.
I completely agree. Yeah, you need to make that aggressive move. I mean, you can even look towards the Pacific Classic this past year, where Fierceness made a very decisive move with Johnny V aboard that day, split runners. And, by the time they turned for home, journalism was just getting going, and that was way too late. Now, obviously, the argument can be made that, journalism was never beating Fierceness that day, whatever. But Fierceness made that move. It was a decisive move, and the race was over, turning for home. Like, you just don't make up that kind of ground. And you mentioned the Marsha Lorraine race at 2023 with Idiomatic. That was Santa Anita. Disregard that. But, sorry, to focus on the Pacific. Yeah, you just have to be decisive when you make that move. Because that's everything. I will say the dirt mile at Del Mar seems to favor the front runners, and I know it's probably tougher to make that move because you're only 6 furlongs in as opposed to furlong 9 or 8, I guess, when you're going the mile and a quarter. But that's one where I've noticed that speed maybe holds a little bit more. I don't know if you have a mile specific versus longer.
I don't, but I would agree with that. Just watching these races. The other thing I wanted to say was, since Del Mar has gone back to the dirt, there have only been 14 races going a mile and a quarter in 10 years now. And in the mile and a quarter races specifically, there's been 13 horses had the lead turning for home. 13 of the winners, 13 of the 14 winners were in front turning for home. The only horse who wasn't in front was Mixto.
Greatest of all time.
Mixto was in second. He was a length behind Full Serrano, who does not want to run a single foot past a mile. So, again, when we're talking about the Breweries Cup Classic specifically, I'm looking for horses that are either going to be towards the front or capable of getting the jump on everyone else. And it just doesn't – horses don't make up ground in the stretch.
I'm so glad you brought up names because in terms of examples from last year that we saw wire to wire, one of them was Full Serrano, who – what was he on the day? It was 16-1?
13, I want to say.
He was a bit of a surprise, at least for our group. I didn't give him much of a chance in there, but knowing that he didn't want to go any further, and the ride that Joelle gave him that day, that was huge. Anna was wire to wire. She had the lead at the top of the stretch. Remember, Immersive made a pretty decent move around the far turn. I know that pace was pretty fast, and even in that race, a horse like Vodka with the Twist, who had no business running second or third or whatever I think she ran second. Ran second in that race. A horse that doesn't want to go any step further than 6.5, 7 furlongs. She stuck around, and Quick Kick was one that was closed a little bit late in that race, but she really stuck around for a horse that didn't want to go anywhere close to the distance that they were going. I think the Juvenile was a bit of an outlier from last year, just based on how 2 specific horses that come to mind run, but I mean, there are examples from last year that you see, and if you go years back, I think there are some good examples and resources to kind of back that up. And the last point I wanted to mention, there's some talk about Sierra Leone. This is all opinion aside. If you look at Sierra Leone's PPs, there was one race that is a complete outlier and an anomaly compared to the rest of his races, and that was his classic here at Del Mar, because all of his other races, he's making up ground in the stretch. And in terms of the race that he ran last year, he had the lead at a point where he typically doesn't have the lead. And people have mentioned in the chat that was a race where he got 45 to the half. He got sub 45 to the half, Nick, which he brings up a good point. But from what we've seen so far, yes, we could see a rabbit potentially. That's a conversation for a different show. But even with the rabbit, I don't think we're going to get anything close to that. So do with that what you will. I just thought I'd bring that up. But I think that's kind of everything that we wanted to talk about. Jackson, do you have any other really stats that could help our viewers out or anything else to inform?
I just wanted to say, sometimes the good horses can overcome things like that or things like biases. But in the 15 Breeders' Cup races, it's pretty much the same. 12 of the 15 winners were in front turning for home, and 14 of the winners have late datable. So this is not a track on the dirt where things are happening in the final furlong. It's just not.
Ryan, any horses that come to mind in these two-turn races that could have that lead at the top of the stretch and be pretty tough?
I mean, I fully anticipate Flavien Prat to make the exact same move at the exact same time on Sierra that he did last year. I don't think that's
be like, what? I say you're gonna have to try, right?
I mean, I think he's gonna do more than try. I'd be shocked if he wasn't within a length of the lead turning for home. He knows that horse, and he knows when he has to make the move. He knows the Del Mar dirt course, that's for sure. I think the Classic, with it being as wide open and competitive as it is, I think it's gonna maybe turn into a bit of a jockey's race. Turning for home, there's gonna be some horses that are maybe best coming out of that race that didn't make a move in time, that were coming a little bit too late.
Jackson, let's talk about it. Are you pro or are you anti-rabbit in the Classic?
I don't have a problem with it. What's the big deal? Rabbit's been around forever. I don't think the horse is going to have much of a factor in this race anyways. There's no speed. The only speed horse that could affect is Fierceness. Fierceness hasn't had the lead in his last 10 races. So I don't see how this horse is coming into play at all. I know Ryan's going to say something that's, I'll just let him say it. Go ahead.
All right. I hear you. Fierceness is not some need the lead type. He, does great. In the Whitney, there was the rabbit in there.
Mm-hmm.
Fierceness was in chase mode, and maybe he didn't fire that day. But, there is something about, if Contrary Thinking gets into the race, and they do go 45 to the half and try and go 109, I don't know that Contrary Thinking makes it that far. But either way, if they go that fast, you are kind of putting all those other horses in chase mode to an extent, where Sierra Leone's going to be very comfortable where he's at. So I think that's maybe the only kind of effect. I don't think that Contrary Thinking is going to duel Fierceness into submission, or, there's not really a whole lot of other speed in there to think of, maybe Nevada Beach. But I think if Contrary Thinking gets those fractions going, I think that puts kind of the others maybe a little bit out of their comfort zone, whereas Sierra would be even more into his. So I think that's maybe kind of the only, effect that a rabbit could have. But I'm with you. I don't think it's going to, he's going to duel with Fierceness. But I'm pro rabbit. I don't understand why everybody's so upset.
If this was a full starting gate, right? If there were 14 horses in the race, then he was the fifth, was going to knock someone out of it that more deserving, then sure, don't let him run because he's not deserving. But it doesn't sound like that's going to be the case this year. So let him in the gate. Who cares?
And that's why, I think in general, I'm probably 60-40 anti, but I think that's the case where I don't really feel strongly about it, because it's not a case where, 14 horses are trying to get in and he's taking the spot of somebody that's got credentials that should be in the race. The reason I lean no is just because I feel like the Classic is such an outlier from the other Grade 1 Classic races that we have in the country, where if you start letting horses of this caliber into a race like that, it's not going to mean what it used to mean, if that really makes any sense.
It does. And I get that it's kind of new here. So I get why like people, I guess, are maybe anti-rabbit. But one of the greatest turf horses one of the greatest turf horses of all time overseas was Frankel, and Frankel had a rabbit for half of his races in like grade 1 races. And I know it's more common over there, and that was probably a pretty dated reference. You could probably find a million ones that were used just this year in like the most prestigious grade 1s out in Europe, because it's a very common thing. I don't see an issue with it over here, as long as it's not taking away from horses that are qualified to get in the gate. And it's not going to be the case in this year's Breeders' Cup Classic.
Yeah, and the people that are making it a safety thing,
No.
like you have zero argument. You're just saying things to say them, like my boy Ryan does. There's no basis behind it. You're just saying things that aren't true.
I think that's a good place to end it. Ryan, I promised that I'd let you plug some content that you're going to have over on the Gallop Out earlier in the show. So I'll leave the floor to you. What do you, Jackson, and Kaylee have cooking over there as of now?
Yeah.
In the upcoming weeks.
Yeah, we have a lot. I'm hopeful that Jackson and Kaylee are going to be able to join me for all of the many videos, but regardless, the three of us are going to get together and we'll release our full Breeders' Cup show. But in the meantime, last night I uploaded the first 11 of our shows that'll go on over the next, I think, 5 days. But starting with on the 23rd, we got Jay Privman joining. On Friday, we'll have Emmett Kennedy to go over all the Euro invaders coming out here after the entries are in. We have a better idea of that. I'll have David Aragona, Greg Wolf, Megan Burgess, Racing Rachel McLaughlin from Indy. Of course, Matt Dinnerman, Tony Kalo, because it wouldn't be complete without him either. Matt Bernier is going to join us as well. So the guest list will keep growing. I'm excited about it. We'll be having them on. We'll be talking Breeders' Cup races. We're going to have plenty of coverage. My goal is to talk about, 2 or 3, and Shane O'Neill has not mentioned my name.
What did you do to this guy?
I don't know. I have no idea what I did to deserve this, Shane. Notice how Shane's not one of the guests on my show either.
Wasn't even a thought.
Good Lord. What did I do?
Or BCBCC.
What did I do to Shane?
Wait, whoa, what about BCBCC?
Shane's the
I
brain.
bet Shane's horse to win a BCBCC on Saturday.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Shane the Brains. I love that horse.
Who knew that?
Shane's the ass.
Wasn't his day.
Who knew that a filly named after Shane would still be running on Tuesday night when she ran the final race on Sunday? What a way to end the show. Great comments in the chat. Keep up the good win. Keep up the good work. Go watch more replays. Jackson, I got to watch a lot of replays because
a lot of work.
Man,
10 days.
Let's start on my homework here pretty soon. Got to get the schoolwork out of the way first, and then we can, dabble into the
priorities.
Yeah, because I of course did that when you guys were here.
Of course, yes, you did so much schoolwork when we were there. It was almost impossible to get to the racetrack.
I think I've been with you 3 times now. I've never once seen you pick up a textbook or.
Oh, I haven't even seen a backpack.
Are we even sure he actually goes to the UK?
I haven't seen his student ID. I've seen nothing. This guy's a ghost.
You guys want a student ID? I don't think I have my wallet.
No, end the show. Let's go.
No, end the show.
Great way to end episode 51 of Pacific Horseplayers. For Ryan, Jackson, this has been Noah. Taking a look at the Del Mar track profile. Of course, Breeders' Cup content has begun. We are about 10 days out, and we'll be bringing more and more content your way. So you're going to want to check that out, and please don't miss out on all the good stuff that we've got coming your way. But again, for Ryan, Jackson, this has been Noah. We'll see you next time on PHP. PHP out.